Hi there, welcome to Frank and Frank Auto Repair. Today we're going to be looking at the 9 most common issues found with the SC400 that ran from 1992 all the way to 2000. There is some variation between each model year, but I've compiled the 9 most common problems for all of them as a complete set. So these issues can appear in any SC400 between 92 and 2000. I've arranged the list by difficulty to fix. So the ones that will come first are the easiest to fix, the cheapest labor-wise, and then the very last ones will be the most intense. You can use this list when you're looking to buy an SC400 or if you've just bought one and you're looking at things that might go wrong, how much it's going to cost you, you're in the market. This list is really going to help you out. I can say right off the bat, I haven't fixed all of these issues within my own car because not all of them have come up yet. Mine only has 111,000 miles, to be fair, so it's not that old as far as SC400s go, although I'm expecting electrical issues to continue to kind of come up as it gets older, but I'm not driving it that often and I'm actually in the market to sell my car, so I thought I'd make this video before I did. And just kind of keep on pumping out SC400 information for all you guys who are interested. So for number 1 on the list, I've actually combined a couple things. They're all interior pieces that crack. So your vent plastic very commonly will crack with the heating and cooling of turning the car on in the winter and the summer. The window trim piece around the front door windows, it's like a faux leather that will very often break, especially if you're taking the panels off or just even the normal flex throughout the year in the weather. And the last thing will be your door trim and wear from the door panel itself, especially if you are taking these on and off to fix other things, replace your speakers, you're going to come into some issues. So for the heating vents, very obviously, it just cracks. Honestly, not worth the replacement. If you want to try to find one, you have to go used. It's quite hard to find one. You can join all of the Lexus groups. It's going to be a pain in your butt, especially if you're not in the States. Same with the window trim. That one's even harder. I found personally both sides of my window trim are cracked. I've never been able to find one that wasn't. I think I got 1 replacement out of 4 that were mint, and that was just lucky. It's really hard. You can sometimes buy them when people part them out, but at this point the car is over 20 years old for every model. To find one like that is going to be really hard. For the door panel itself, you'll notice that between the armrest and the door panel itself, it might start to come apart. For this, you might be able to take it somewhere local to fix that does specifically like vinyl and leather and trim pieces like that. They might be able to fix it for you, but honestly, if you can find a replacement door panel, go for it. But like I said, hard to find, especially not in the States. So number 2 on the list is heating issues. So the reason I have it second on the list is because 99% of the time, all it is the actuator that controls the flow of the coolant to your heater core. The way that this actuator works is there is a line of air, actually a couple of them, that run through an actuator, and they will open a valve to allow the coolant to flow through the heater core and heat your vehicle. What happens is the actuator will stop working, or there will be a blockage in between the valve itself. I'll put up an image right here so you can kind of see. There will be a hose that runs within itself in the system, and then another one that runs into it, which is the pressured line, the air pressured line. All you need to do to fix this is literally take that pressure line, remove it from where it is, and stick it in one of the other holes, and it will keep that valve, it will bypass that actuator and keep that valve open for you the whole time, so you can have heat at any time. that remaining 1% of the time your heating issues are going to be the heater core itself, in which case it's going to be a horrific mess. I've never had to do that myself, and I don't actually think it's that common, which is why it's number 2. Heating issues is number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list, also in cooling, is the Coolant Overflow Reservoir. I've read, I have never had this happen to myself, but I've read that they will crack and they'll start to leak. Personally, I have had issues with the radiator itself. I was doing a job and I cracked it right on the top where there's a hose that comes in, and I tried everything, glues, epoxies, anything to seal it, and really I could not get the coolant to just stay. It would be okay at a certain temperature, but then once it got too hot, I would start to get a small leak again, so I ended up having to change the entire radiator. So I imagine the same thing happens with the reservoir, and I looked at the prices, run up, $250 plus American for a new one, and probably not that easy to find an SC400 used in your area. So reason I put it 3rd on the list is it's the first one that's going to cost you a lot and is necessary to change. The first 2, heating you're going to want if it's the winter, but it's free, and then the very first one is not functional. It's just the look of the car, so those are 1 and 2. But this you are going to have to do. It's supposed to be less than an hour job. Never done it myself, like I said, but an hour or less, and it seems straightforward, so that's why it's number 3 on the list. Number 4 on the list are the window regulators. So this one, replacing, not too hard. You just need to take the panel off and remove the electronics. But the reason I put it ahead of the other, the reservoir on the list, is because I think that this happens a lot more commonly. I've noticed in my vehicle, both windows are now starting to die, and I hear about it a lot. And as well, you have to be a lot more careful when replacing your regulators, because as I said, the door panels are so finicky, and that's why I have number 4 on the list. They will die. You might have bought it with your car already dead. So number 5 on the list is the climate control panel or the gauge cluster lighting. So the climate control is an LCD display, and eventually that just dims out and burns out. Replacing it is not too difficult. I have a video on my channel that outlines replacing the head unit, and it's the same thing. There's just 2 more screws after that, and unclip a couple cables, and you're good to go. Finding one, I don't think it's that hard. There is an aftermarket option that's complete LCD, no buttons on it. I've never used it personally. I've heard mixed reviews for that, but I haven't had trouble finding replacement stereos and climate control systems. But for the gauge cluster itself, this is what makes it number 5 on the list. I've heard that this can be quite difficult to do. Again, I have not reached the point of having to replace mine, so I don't know. But finding a replacement is apparently quite hard, and if you don't find a replacement, then you're forced to replace all of the lighting in the system, and it might require you to have some skill soldering. I think the lights are directly into the board. It's not plug and play or anything like that. It's a little more complicated, so you'll need some skill. Number 6 and 7 on this list kind of come hand in hand. So number 6 is power steering leaks. You will get a lot of leaks from either your high pressure power steering line or the pump itself, and it's a pain in the butt. Honestly, you probably won't notice anything when you're driving the vehicle right away. You might start seeing some drops on the floor, but I promise you, you need to change it right away, because it's just going to create so many headaches for you. The high pressure power line, it's super tight. The whole engine bay is super tight. It's a pain to stick your hand into there and replace these sorts of things. You have to go from underneath and on top to tighten and loosen the high pressure hose. It'll take you an hour if you're experienced, maybe a couple, but it's a pain. It's not super straightforward, and you will have to replace it at some point. I can almost guarantee that. And if you notice leaks, you probably, your pump is done. Your pump is going to have to be replaced. If the high pressure hose is leaking and your pump isn't over finished with, then consider yourself lucky, because it's probably both. Once one starts to leak, the other one gets done. And again, do this right away, because that leads us into number 7 on the list, which is the failing alternator. And so the way that these are related is that as soon as you start getting a power steering leak, your power steering pump is about here, your engine's here. Right underneath is the alternator. In a horrific design, they've decided to put this unit that constantly fails and leaks right above your electric alternator, and eventually the entire thing gets gumped up and burns out with all of the power steering fluid. So if you notice any sort of leak, get it done right away. You're going to save yourself a ton of money. Replacing the alternator, again, tight space, it's a pain. You might be able to manage to squeeze it out without, having to remove a million other things. But everything in the bay is tight, and if you want it to go smooth, things have to come out. So again, I encourage you, replace the power steering system as soon as there's any leaks, and save your alternator, save yourself the big bucks there. Number 8 on the list is the lower control arms. Again, I personally haven't had to do this, but my car is not very high mileage. I've heard that the control arms, what happens is they will fuse, and the nut and the control arm at the end, or the bolt, and they all just fuse together, and a blowtorch and hitting the hell out of this thing never ever helps get it off. It just becomes a horrible headache, and that's why it's number 8 on the list. Control arms are not exactly super cheap, but it's just such a pain in the butt for a job, that make sure you check these before you purchase your car. See what kind of state they're in, because if you're going to have to do it, and you're going to be doing it yourself, it's going to be a huge pain in your butt. I think that you might be able to cross between a couple other Lexus models, and you might be able to find some used, but honestly, you're probably going to have to go new depending where you live, and it's going to be a hell of a job to take these off. And to finish off the list, number 9 is the starter. So this is kind of an infamous part to replace on the SC400, because it's located right in the middle of the engine between the two heads. So underneath the whole intake system, the upper intake, is the starter. And it's not just, okay, you take the upper intake off, pull the starter off, you're all good. It has horribly placed bolts behind it in horrific places to reach. It's supposed to be a 5-hour job, maybe factory if you're lucky, but honestly, at 20 years plus vehicles, as soon as you open that up, you're going to notice tons of electrical issues. I mean, I opened mine up this past year. I checked my service history. The starter had been done, I think, twice already in the car's history before I bought it, once within 30,000 miles. And you can tell there's evidence of electrical wiring repair, not done properly, and it's just this massive headache. So if the starter's failing, I honestly, unless this car is close to free, or you know what you're doing, just stay away. Just sell the car. Just get rid of it. Don't buy it. Sell it. Whatever you can. It's really not worth it, in my opinion. Like I said, the upper intake comes off. You're going to need new gaskets. That doesn't cost too much, but it takes so much time. Take pictures if you're going to do the job, because there's so many different things that have to come back together. Once you have everything out, do not, whatever you do, remove the rear coolant bridge, because to actually get the last bolt to pull that bridge completely off, you're supposed to drop the transmission and come from underneath. That's what I've read is how they do it in dealership, because there's no physical way you're going to be able to do that with any sort of tools at all. Even, like I said, the starter, those 2 bolts at the back towards the transmission, you're going to need to buy some different tools. Like, it's not just going to be standard set. You're going to need some things that can reach at angles, and hands are going to get cut, and it's going to be a pain. So that's why it's the number 9 on the list, and it's the definite stay away. Do not buy. Do not deal with this unless you have money or experience. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Just kind of combined a lot of my personal experience with what I've read over the years. I've owned my car for coming up 7 years now, so I know it in and out decently well. I've done a lot of the repairs myself. Maintenance is really pretty easy on these things. If you find a good one, it's really worth it. The only job maintenance-wise that is hard is the timing belt, and you have to do that at dealer, because I don't think that anybody here has the tools needed or the experience. If you've done it before, sure, but if you're new to the car, there's no way you're going to be doing that timing belt yourself. It's quad cam, and if you screw anything up, you're going to toast your engine. You're going to ruin your valves. So thank you everyone for tuning into my 9 most common problems with the SC400. Please like and subscribe, follow me, let me know what else you want to see, what else you want to learn about. If it's anything to do with an SC400 or any other vehicle, just leave a comment down below. Thank you so much.